for those watching, you've got some things that you can look at as far as detox is concerned. We talked about that, and there's certainly a lot more that you can explore with it. And I would recommend you looking up Dr. Pompa. He's got a lot of material online, and he's got some great detox protocols. But I think that there's one more kind of piece to this puzzle that I think we ought to bring to this audience, and you have a really, really good handle on this. It's the microbiome.
The microbiome is a hot topic right now, right? And simply, this is your bacteria. That good, bad, all of it together is the microbiome. Bacteria, viruses, funguses, good guys, bad guys, you name it, microbiome. I think most people watching this have heard, just because of the darn yogurt commercials, right? That your gut bacteria make up 70% of your immune system. That's actually true, maybe even more, right? So when we're looking at really immune boosting right now, look, there is, I told you avoid glyphosate, because glyphosate crushes that microbiome.
Yeah.
Toxins in any kind.
Yeah.
When I was sick, my microbiome, my bacteria went absolute berserk. So how do we improve this microbiome? First of all, understand this. Right now we have the ability to test the microbiome, and we have been more successful even in the last 5 years. There's only one thing that really has held true with all the testing we've done. So many people watching this have got their microbiome tested.
Eating dirt?
Yeah, well, that helps because eating dirt, it's good. He's good, right?
Well, we don't want to stop our kids from eating dirt.
That's right. I ate a lot of dirt as a kid. Absolutely, you're right. Absolutely, there's some dirt, soil organism products I'm a big fan of, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's the diversity. So when we do these testing on very healthy people and very sick people, right? Athletes, young people with vibrant immune systems versus not so healthy. We see one thing in common, and that's the diversity of the microbiome. So then the question I would have if I were watching this is, how do I increase my diversity? Well, it's not what you think. I'll tell you that right now, right? In other words, they would make you believe it was so simple as taking your daily probiotic.
Right.
Would you say almost 80%, does that say of people coming in are on a probiotic?
It's junk.
It's
mostly
garbage.
junk.
And they've been on the same probiotic probably for months or years, right?
Right.
The worst thing you can do. We call it monoculturing, right? So you're taking a product, maybe at best 7 bacteria, right? Probably less. And you're taking that product for month after month after month. How many bacteria, Dr. John, do we have in our gut? I mean, we've discovered thousands, but it's probably far more, right? We keep discovering more. It arguably could be hundreds of thousands of types, right? Of course, there's way more than that, but
so it's not really the quantity of bacteria, but it's the diversity.
I would say quantity, and that would be my next thing. Look, quantity does play a role in it, right? It does. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but diversity first, quantity second. Okay. So we have diverse, and we have a lot of bacteria, a lot of diversity in the bacteria, right? So how do we improve that? It's not the point I want to make.
That was my next question.
Yeah, so it's not the pill taking, right? I mean, and again, I'm a guy who I teach my doctors how to rotate, and there's one tip for your audience right now is rotate your bacteria every month. Change the bacteria. Go to the health food store. Keep changing them. Pick soil organisms. Pick this. Pick that. So that's at least one. Fermented foods, as many as you can. Change them, right? Because fermented foods have a lot of different bacteria. However, this answer will surprise many watching. The answer is we stress our microbiome. Yeah, like exercise, that's how you make them more diverse. So we stress them. Then the next question is, how do we do that? How do you stress them? Fasting is a clever way of stressing.
You're starving them.
That's right.
Okay.
I believe we are all programmed to fast. I do. I believe it's in our genes. We're meant to fast. When you look at very healthy ancient culture, which is the Huns of people, I was blessed to visit one of the last hunting gathering tribes in Africa, a very amazing tribe. You wouldn't believe the differences on how they eat compared to us, but the point is that they were just forced out of a fast because they were in a massive drought. So when we look at healthy cultures, they were forced into times of feast and famine. When they had food, man, they ate food. But even the diversity, which is what I talk about this in my book, diet variation. So how do we improve the diversity of our microbiome and therefore our immune system? And this is the biggest way to improve your immune system. I know I'm a fan of it, taking things to help boost. I'm not saying negative, But I'm talking about true immunity starts with this
Yes.
microbiome, right?
Yes.
So we changed the diet. So when someone comes in who's very immune compromised or even autoimmune, we force dietary changes. We'll put them on a ketosis diet for 3 or 4 months. Then we put them on a healthy high carbohydrate diet for a few months. We're changing the diversity. And again, humans were meant to change diets. Cultures were forced to change diets. And then we add the feast famine. So the feast is when we're eating maybe a higher healthy carbohydrate diet. The famine we create either from a partial fast where we reduce their calories down to 500 to 800 calories a day and their protein. Okay, it's a partial fast, or just water for a period of time.
Walter Longo did some research on the calorie restriction, and there was actually some really good benefit even with that, wasn't there?
Yeah. So in my book, I have a program of how to do a fast, right? How to lead up to a fast to benefit the microbiome. But so in his research, autophagy played a critical role. What is autophagy? And again, as we're talking about the immune system, this gives me goosebumps because the worst part about a bad immune system is we have these immune cells that are living too long.
Yeah.
They're called senescent cells. We can literally test your immune system by how many old senescent cells that are living too long, that not only don't work against viruses and bacteria anymore, but they cause mischief. These are bad guys that just hang around.
Like zombies.
That's right. They're hanging around just causing trouble. Inflammation. These are the people who react to the cytokine reaction, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So how do we get rid of them? Autophagy. Yeah. So in a fasting state, your body needs nutrition. Where does it get it? It needs water. Where does it get that? It breaks these cells down first. It's so smart, John, that it goes after these bad cells, these senescent cells, these bad immune cells. So in Longo's study, that was a great point you made. In Longo's study, back in the 90s, when I was super into fasting, I joke and I say it was me and some natural hygiene society guys that were into fasting in the 90s, but I was like, I love fasting.
Yeah.
Anyways, the criticism of fasting was it lowers your immune system. It lowers your immune system. And clinically, we would say, we see the opposite. We see a down regulation of the autoimmune, that's the hyperimmune system that drives inflammation, cytokine reactions. And we see an upregulation of good immunity, especially after a fast. So what Walter showed now in new studies is this autophagy gets rid of, the reason we saw this drop in white blood cells is the autophagy is getting rid of these senescent white blood cells. Yeah. So that's why we'd see a drop. And then here's the best part. It stimulates a stem cell and it creates a new white blood cell. Yeah. And in Walter's language, he says it creates a naive white blood cell. I mean, it's not overreacting. This new white blood cell, it's doing what it was designed to do. Virus, kill it. Yeah. Bacteria, kill it. So that's why fasting, we're designed to do it. It upregulates good immunity.
Yeah, it just makes so much sense. And when you look at, our history, we didn't have refrigerators and freezers, and we didn't have access to food 24/7. Right. So we had to fast. And so we're built. And so let me see if I can just kind of repeat this so that people kind of have it, because this is
repetition is the king of learning.
This is big stuff.
It is.
And if you haven't heard this before, you haven't been exposed to fasting, intermittent fasting, it's definitely one of the most inexpensive strategies that you can take. You'll actually save.
It costs you nothing.
So let's kind of make that. Let's repeat this. So when you don't eat, your body actually shifts from growing and making cells to breaking them down. So it's this starvation mode that is where your body cleans up, and what happens is that as you get older and you accumulate more and more cells, after they get to a certain age, they're dysfunctional and they actually cause problems.
Inflammation.
And they call that a senescent cell. And these senescent cells hog energy, create inflammation. Yeah. And they may be linked to most, a lot of disease processes, for sure, the aging.
But by the way, right there, when you look at who's dying from this virus, it's people who have a ton of senescent cells. The older you get, the more you have. Right. The more unhealthy you are, the more you have. So it's unhealthy older people who are most falling victim to the coronavirus. Yeah. So therefore, if we can drop our senescent cells, I don't care if you're 90, if you have low senescent cells, the coronavirus is not going to affect you. So arguably, it is the thing to avoid.
So we're talking about senescent cells. It can be any cell in the body.
That's right.
But immune cells in particular, you're talking about the average health and robustness to your immune cells, to be able to take that, all the colonies and all of the immune cells, and say, we're going to get rid of all the ones that aren't working properly and they're weak, right? And we're going to create a stimulus, a powerful stimulus, a stem cell stimulus, to come in and trigger the body to replace all of those old dysfunctional immune cells. I mean, now, there's never going to be a drug that's going to do something this amazing, is there?
No. Look, and you and I, before this, we got really excited. I mean, there's some hot stocks right now that are going up because of stem cell research. That's make him give you his hot tip, okay? I'm gonna tell you again. But he gave it to my kids. Honestly, you did. Thank you for that, right? But it's soaring up. Why is that stock soaring up? Because the research showing that stem cells could be the answer to this. Stem cells, when they go up, they go right into the lung tissue, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay, now you might not be able to afford to get stem cells, but you can afford to fast. Yeah. So when you're day 5 of a fast, and my book takes through a step-by-step program on how to fast, how to do it correctly. Mm-hmm. And I talk about day 5, you get this massive stem cell rise, even on a partial fast, right? You don't have to just water fast. And where do they go? They're going into the lungs. And that is exactly the opposite. It does the opposite of what's killing people. The cytokine reaction is what's killing people. Stem cells down-regulate that, and you can get it for free.
We're going to have Rafael Gonzalez on the summit. And
big fan. I love Rafael. If I can be a part of that, let me be a part of that, because he's a world changer. And his
let's do it. Yeah. Let's do the interview together. I think that'd be great.
I'm in. Yeah. I'm in.
But we're both really big fans of regenerative medicine. We've utilized it personally to overcome a lot of challenges, particularly with the some of the musculoskeletal and joint damage from the Lyme for so many years. And we do a lot of this type of work here at my clinic, where we use stem cells and PRP and ozone, and these things can be injected into joints, and it can be just miraculous. And I think that there's a part of keeping your body free of some of these like smoldering infection, or not smoldering.
They drive
injuries,
they
right?
drive inflammation.
So let's say you have a chronic lower back condition, right? And you just and it's inflammatory. It actually makes a home for infections to settle in.
That's right.
And it upregulates inflammation throughout the whole body. So if you have an area of your body that you have chronic inflammation, chronic pain, you really want to address it. And there's a lot of different strategies out there. We're not going to have time to really get into it here. Obviously, we talked a little bit about stem cells and prolotherapy and PRP, but that might not be something that's available for everybody to utilize. But I want to kind of circle back to the microbiome. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, for me personally, and also the fasting, when I was really sick, I just stopped eating. And this was it's a long time. It was before anybody was really talking about fasting. It was the only thing that allowed me to feel better and to function. I lost so much weight because I was just fasting and fasting.
Your body knew what it was trying to do.
Yeah, and that's when I think I ran into Seth kind of in that area, and he'd made a comment on the summit on his interview that you were emaciated, and I right now I weigh about 180. I was down to 145, and very, very ill, and so the microbiome it does play such a vital role with the health and vitality of everything, really. I mean, you can't be healthy without having a healthy gut and a healthy microbiome. Some interesting points I'd like to make is, I've seen studies where they actually found that people that had pets or people that lived with multiple members in their household had more diversity and a healthier microbiome.
Yeah, it's true. I think we need to be a little cautious. And I understand why we're social distancing. I understand why everyone's washing their hands. I get all that. And I think that's, should be followed. However,
that's what I was hoping.
Yeah. However, we have to kind of break out of that. We have to kind of go back into not trying to run from bacteria, because it is proven that the more you're exposed to, the healthier your immune system, right? We started by talking about dirt.
Yeah.
right? People that work in daycares and hospitals and stuff, they do literally end up with the best, immune systems because of the exposure. It's called herd immunity. I mean, in the sense that the more of us get, the more viruses, the more exposure, you start building more immunity, and even the COVID virus, where the more people get exposed, the more we're going to see less of this, pass on. But it might take 2 or 3 years to do it. The point is that there is soap and water is better to wash our hands with because it doesn't kill your microbiome. All the alcohol products that can kill the microbiome. It's like taking the antibiotics, time and a place. But if you're taking them again and again and again, now you've just destroyed. It's napalm. Your microbiome, your first line.
We also talked about the silver hydrosol,
Yeah.
as a hand sanitizer.
Right.
What are some other hand sanitizers people could create?
Yeah, look, I mean, like vinegars things, but there's a drying component to it, but it works, right? I mean, just like you can water it down and make vinegar
Like apple
products.
cider vinegar?
Yeah, exactly. And put that in products, make your own products because it has such a great effect and it's good for the microbiome, right?
And there's some essential oils, aren't
Yeah,
there?
absolutely. A lot of great essential oils, like lavender is one, right? And peppermint and all of those. So you can make your own products. A few drops of lavender, a few drops of peppermint. It's simple.
So these are things that are antimicrobial, but they're not damaging to your microbiome,
That's
whether
the
you take
point.
it orally or
Right.
you put it
That's
on
the
your
point.
skin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the microbiome is key, right? And we want to stress it, right? So if we're just sterile, if you always have gloves on, if you always have a mask on, you're going to end up with a worse immune system in the end. And then guess what? The moment you don't, you're in danger. So, we can't live life in a bubble, and I think that's my fear for coming out of this.
Yeah.
We literally need exposures, right? We need to challenge. It's like exercise. If you sit at home all day, you're not going to create oxidative stress. Well, I don't want to exercise because you create oxidative stress when you exercise, which you do. But wait a minute. You'll literally end up sick. You'll end up flaccid. So the point is we need stress, right?
Yeah,
we don't want to over-stress, but we need stress. We need to stress our microbiome. Feast, famine. I talk about it in my book. How we feast, how we famine. Change diet variation strategies, fasting. That's a stress. That our fasting is a stress that our body has to adapt to. And when it does, you actually get stronger, not weaker.
It's really hitting me here just listening to you talk about how critical this is with everybody is just becoming hyper germaphobe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's a fear.
And so there's going to be some changes, I think, moving forward, even after this, that where people are going to be really careful of washing their hands, using a lot. Whether we think it's right or not, alcohol is just going to be used rampant, okay? And so there's going to be this sterilization. And so what that's going to do as a negative consequence to people's diversity in their microbiome is going to be a big issue moving forward.
It's a big issue. It's a big issue. And, and I think that, again, these principles that we're talking about, we're genetically, to bring it full circle, designed to fast, feast, famine. These types of things will become even more important because we've taken them away. It's an exercise. It's something that we need for our immune system. We need for our microbiome. Look, we're just now discovering how important the microbiome is, not just with our immune system, even how our brain works, right? And we have a country, a world, that's reaching for psychotropic medications, antidepressants, right? In kids, Adderall. These things are why? Because our brains aren't working. Guess where you make serotonin and dopamine? Those are the two things.
I know.
Okay,
The
I
gut.
know he knows.
The gut.
I know he knows.
Your
Very
gut
good.
makes
He
these-
studied
yeah.
before this. No, yes, but you need, there's a shikimate pathway, and it's certain bacteria that you need to make those neurotransmitters. So do you understand my fear with this? Again, going full circle, this microbiome here. Guess what? We've learned that these guys communicate with these guys. Oh, these guys communicate with these guys. These guys communicate with these guys.
Yeah.
So when we affect one, we affect it all.
Even having a positive mindset, like even being happy, has a positive effect on your microbiome.
Your thoughts. I don't know if you're interviewing Bruce Lipton, and we should, in this series because, he talks about that very thing. Your thoughts determine your cell's function. Right? Your thoughts determine even your bacteria and have a big impact. So you're right. Toxic thoughts, toxins, affect all of it.
And vice versa, if you have nasty bacteria in your gut, it can actually change your thoughts. I know this sounds crazy. There's probably people watching this like, you're insane. Like that sounds so far-fetched.
That's science.
There is science behind this.
Yeah, it's science. But get back to fasting. Get back to these things that we're talking about. That'll change your microbiome.
Well, let's give the people watching some basic strategies they can start with. I know I've got my protocols that we use here, but I'd love to hear, like, let's say you're in clinic and I come to you, I'm your patient, and you're going to give me some simple, basic fasting strategies that I can start.
Well, look, first of all, you can start even by eating less often. Like when we look at studies on people who live long healthy, they say it's eating less, it's eating less. That became very popular in this country, and unfortunately everyone started eating less calories. Well, that's true, but that's not lasting, meaning that you can't just eat less calories and last. Your metabolism gets lower and lower. We know it doesn't work for weight loss, right? Long term, right? Short term, of course, it works. But it doesn't work long term for your health. So how do we eat less? Because if that's what studies show really works to live longer healthy, you eat less by eating less often. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Start by simple, skip breakfast or skip one meal. Maybe it's dinner, right? But skip a meal. I rarely eat breakfast. I eat in a very small 4-hour window.
It's a window.
You watch me do that. I come here, I would go all day long.
Well, we're the same. I'm doing the same thing. We don't eat until like later in the afternoon.
And here's the mistake people watching this will probably say is, well, I don't eat, a handful of nuts, this, that. That's a meal. If it spikes up glucose and insulin, you just ate. So eat less often is how you start fasting.
So they call that a time-restricted window, don't they?
Yes.
Or intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting. Daily, intermittent fasting. So in my book, I talk, chapter 1 is how to become fat adapted. Because you want your cells to be able to utilize fat as energy. And most Americans, I'll speak from where I live, don't have that ability.
Sugars, right? It's like that's going to be their go-to.
Sugar or fat.
So, I always tell my patients that it's like having your refrigerator. It's so easy to get.
Yes.
But getting energy from fat is like the freezer down in the basement, right? You
Thaw.
have to go down there. You have to thaw it out. It's not as easy. But once you get it out of there, it's a much bigger source of fuel, isn't it?
Absolutely. But unfortunately, hormonally, most people are broken. They don't have the hormonal cellular ability to use fat as energy. So chapter 1. I talk about how to fix that. Chapter 2 is we start to eat less often. Where do you start? You start with eliminating snacks, believe it or not. People watching this go, wait a minute, I eat 3 meals a day. Oh no, most Americans eat 6, 7, even up to 21 times a day, meaning food, right. You think you just eat one, when you sat down for a meal, that's a meal. No, this all day long. So and then chapter 2, 3 is when we talk about daily intermittent fasting, and then we talk about how in a month, we actually do a longer 5-day fast, whether it's partial or water. But the point is you don't just run a marathon. You train for it to get the best result. And that's what my book does.
Yeah. So, if you're new to fasting, expect not to be a pro with it right away. You're going to have to expect that you're going to crash, and you have to have some strategies, which, I recommend Dr. Pompa's book for sure. It's excellent. But if you want to start fasting, that's going to be the easiest way is to just try to extend your window each day. And if having a late breakfast at first is all you can do, and then you start to maybe just have lunch and dinner. You start to work on that window, and that'll start to allow you to be more efficient at getting fat out of your. If you are overweight, you're actually teaching your body to use all that weight as energy.
Absolutely. We talked about the autophagy, which gets rid of those senescent cells that we don't want to have a good immune system, right? Well, even a 15-hour fast, meaning you eat at 6 o'clock, right? So 6 to 6 a.m., that's 12 hours, right? Add another 3 hours on, so now that's 9 a.m. At 15 hours, you actually had some autophagy. So now if you extend it a little more, right? Now you're getting even more autophagy, getting rid of those old cells that we don't want, that down-regulate immunity.
Well, it's not only that, but if you think about so many diseases, it's too much growth, right? Like you have cardiovascular, it's growth of the endothelium, right? And then you have growth of these proteins in the brain, and you have cancer, which is growth. And there's very specific triggers when you're eating. you're stimulating this growth. And when you're not eating is when your body has this cleaning, which we talked about, cleaning out senescent cells, cleaning out, a lot of toxins as well. I mean, your liver and your gut.
It's a natural detox, is what.
I'm going to link to in the transcript what my personal fasting suggestions are. We're also going to link to Dr. Pompa's book and to how you can get his book. We're going to have a coupon code. Is it viral? Is that
viral. Use it.
So
we'll give you a discount on the book and get the book. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So this has really gone through much more than I expected. You know, this summit is really viruses, and I think people might think they're signing up for a certain type of information within the summit, but they're actually getting much more.
Yeah.
And in spades in this interview, we've gone over fasting, we've gone over toxicity, and different types of toxins, where it settles in the body, different mindset. We started out with that. We talked about the microbiome, and we just covered so many aspects of the microbiome. I'm so happy to have had an opportunity to interview you, and you're just such a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. No, I do. I love bringing the message because it's real, it works, and we lived it.
So I asked this question with everybody. So your top 5 suggestions on avoiding getting a virus, and your top 5 suggestions if someone got sick and they're sick with either coronavirus or some other viral infection, maybe it's a chronic Epstein-Barr virus. Like, what would be your top 5 choices there?
You just rattled off some of them, right? Obviously, avoidance, I think, is critical. I mean, reestablishing your microbiome, and there is change your diet variation, right? Fasting in some aspect, and like I said, we talked about all of those strategies, feast, famine cycles. I think that's critical. I am a big fan of taking certain things, right? I had said there was a product my biochemist created for his family, and it was called Cyto Defense. I'm taking that, and it has zinc in it.
It was interesting. I was rattling off some things that I like my patients to take, and you're like, well, my colleague, my scientist at my company, actually designed something with all that in one product. I'm like, that's incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
So now everybody's running out of things. Do you still have some of that available?
Yeah, we do. There is, because he made a bunch of it. So he asked me if hey, do you want to? I made this here. Do you want this product to put out there? I said absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll definitely link to that.
We'll link to it. But and then you can see I get in the sun. If you don't have a chance to get in the sun, up your vitamin D levels. At least 30,000 units a week or more. Just get that in. I mean, I'm just trying to give you a simple thing. So I told the toxin avoidance. It's in this interview, right? So those are the things I would do for avoidance. If I had it, right? All right, silver, right? That's in this interview. Ozone. Right, that's in high dose C. I think you do all that here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all of those things is what I would do. And of course, I had said this because some people are getting this, or their hunger goes away. My advice is fast. Yeah. Some of the older people actually gain hunger, eat, listen to the innate intelligence. So that's what I would do. And that's a really, really important point, because the body knows best.
Yeah, I agree with everything. So we were very aligned. So you're getting great advice. Again, thank you for joining me. Wasn't that a great interview? Dr. Dan and I have been working together on some different protocols, and if you're interested to see the latest one that we've worked on, we're calling a fast track, where we've created methods where you can really science out and get the max effect with a fast. Go to ultimatecellularreset.com/fast, and you can find that protocol. And you can also find links to the discount for Dr. Dan's book and all the other great stuff that we are educating people on our channel. So thanks for joining me, and look forward to seeing you on the next show.